something that the ministry is aware of, or it's not something that's approved?
I repeat again that education is free in River State. We have not authorized the collection of any amount of money from any students in public schools, across the state. And I've told parents to report to my office. If they go for admission or resumption of their children in any school, and any principal or teacher, forces the students or tells the students to go and pay some amount of money in the name of whatever, let reports, come to me. Then we'll take an action. So people say, I heard. I say, heard from who? Make an official report. Then I will swing into action. Because as far as I'm concerned, the government of the state, headed by Sir Asmila Ifubra, GSSROS, has not authorized the collection of any fee of any sort, because the continuity and consolidation mantra has it that education is free in River State. I want to remind you that, look, before now, our children, most indigent children from very poor backgrounds, even after attending SS3 or whatever they call them, are unable to pay for the WAEC or NECO registration. The government of the state looked at this. The immediate past government said, no, we shall make education free. Make this affordable. So our children who are from very poor background can continue with education and get certificate. That's the no division behind it. And based on that, the WAEC and the NECO conducted senior secondary school certificate examinations were paid for free of charge. Same with the basic education certificate examination, otherwise known as the junior WAEC, free of charge. And that has cost River State some billions of amount of money. Now the new government, River State, headed by Sir Asmila Ifubra, Run Service of River State, continuing with that. Once he came on board, he approved and released the money for the addition of River State students who enrolled for WAEC. Same with those who enrolled for the NECO conducted senior secondary school certificate examinations. And these examinations have been successfully completed. And said this will continue because the government is government of continuity and consolidation. So what am I trying to say is that the government of the day is still committed to free education in River State. And that is why not just that, but very soon we'll talk about the issue of infrastructure. But we're coming to that.
We'll come to that after the commercial. Let me get to Dr. Ben. Dr. Ben, you've heard the commissioner. Yeah. And for many people, the question is, the government will say, don't just talk about the problems. What are the solutions? How do we tackle these problems would be what we want to hear. As an educationist yourself and assessing the system in River State, what areas and where do you think improvements should be made? What government should be doing to better serve the people and make this education easily accessible? And not just education, but quality education.
It's okay. I think to begin with, I would want to lend my voice in appreciating the innovation of the Honorable Commissioner of Education in what he has set out to do as far as improving education in River State is concerned. Let me begin with the just concluded retraining program, which he mentioned, and I can give you an insight of what happened because I was involved. Like he told you, he had to look out for experts across the tertiary institutions in River State, to be involved in facilitating that program. And for me, when he started it last year, we were equally involved, and we prayed that it should be it should be sustained rather. And then just 3 months into his office, he has done that again. That is highly commendable because, most of the teachers we have in our classroom are quite disconnected from what is happening now, contemporary development in education. It will shock you to know that since some of them, graduated with their NCE or maybe with their BEd, they've not gone back to the classroom again. And so this retraining program afforded an opportunity for them to reconnect, to a number of issues. You are talking about problems, ethical problems, issues bordering on professional ethics. thoroughly dealt with in that retraining program. Issues bordering on effective communication. We also, attended to it, and of course, how to curb examination malpractice. How to prevent or curb education malpractice. All of that, were brought into focus as far as that is. So for me, is very commendable. Again, if I would recall, I'm not his mouthpiece or the mouthpiece of the Ministry of Education. There was one other action he took last time, and highly commendable too, and that was embarking on needs assessment. Of the various schools, and so all the 22 LGS and the schools in primary school and secondary school, people had to go down, look at those schools, look at the needs, infrastructure wise, look at interacted with the teachers and the administrators, and then of course there was the feedback.
All right, let's take this commercial.
Right.
When we come back, you finish on your line of thoughts, and then
right.
we get into exactly infrastructure.
The show continues after this break on Nigeria Info.
Education with us, Professor Mmom, and Dr. Ben is with us in the studio as well, an educator towards the state of schools, infrastructure. But before we get back to the Commissioner, let's allow Dr. Ben conclude. You were talking about the need assessment program.
Yes.
That was something that was introduced, and how do you look? There's a story we had about some of these schools that were built and then they have been vandalized.
Yes.
How do we address that?
Well, last time when I was here, I told you that education is too important to be left solely in the hands of government, and so the involvement of the communities rather, will be required if we need to secure some of those infrastructure. We need, some form of collaboration from members of the community, because they are the people who are actually doing this vandalization. People hardly come from outside, and I cited a very horrifying experience, with a particular school that I observed was totally vandalized somewhere in Eche. And I was cocksure that people didn't come from Adamawa. Nobody came from Kaduna State to do that. Members of the immediate community should account for what happened. And so there is this need for community development committees to also, mount surveillance on the schools and the infrastructure of the school in their own very locality. You cannot leave all of that for government. And you cannot leave all of that for government. So the communities must be involved. And I'm being emphatic about this now, because most of the schools are quite far in the remote areas. And I keep saying that it will be difficult for an outsider or for outsiders to come into such communities and then do away with what government has put in place without the input of the people or connivance, or complicity from members of the community. And that should stop. Members of the community or community development committees, now I'm holding them accountable, should be alive to that duty of ensuring that government infrastructure, educational infrastructures are protected.
Mr. Commissioner, a quick question would be, for many people, is there a record of how many public schools we have in Rivers State across the local governments?
Yeah,
do we know how many schools?
Well, schools keep upgrading. Now, this will do another review again. But we had about 298 at the time. So many schools have given approval for upgrade of many schools, and new schools have also been approved. Okay. So by the end of this term, we will have the total number of schools, public schools, both the primary, the junior secondary, and the senior secondary school, across the state. Approvals have been given on a daily basis. For instance, we approved one last week. So by the end of this time, we'll be able to have total number of junior secondary schools, senior secondary schools, primary schools across the state. But we'll have these statistics.
All right. What is the situation with the teachers in the schools? Because reports are some of the schools in some of those communities, especially the HAs, the AODAs, and you don't even have teachers in them. For some of them, the schools, they don't even have chairs. There's a report we carried that was conducted by one of our correspondents, and there were schools where we saw children sitting on blocks, stacks of blocks, some on the floor. Is there a mechanism in government where information about the state of these schools go to them, or is it something that, or maybe a local government council chairman should be, whose responsibility would it be before a school gets to that point where it's totally no desk at all, and then some of them no roofs at all? How is there no form of communication? What would be responsible for that?
Thank you. It's the same question I'll return back to you. Are there no heads of such schools? That's the question who asks. If I'm heading the Ministry of Education for the state. My business is to report to my principal, the governor of the state. This is the state of the Ministry of Education. Based on that, the information I've given to my principal, and take some policy decisions. So when people are just sitting in my office, I can't be in a witch or a weed daughter to stay here and know what is happening at Odemude in Ahoda, know what is happening at.
So you're saying the heads of principals in those areas do not respond, do not report?
The head teachers, you know the state of the schools where you are heading. No, their chairs.
What if they don't go to work? Is there a way to know? Because there's also that concern.
Yes, now
they don't go to work.
Let me get down that. So when you report, you have the zonal offices. So if Port Harcourt is too far from those who are very far off, maybe far Bonny, far Abua or Dual as the case may be, you have the zonal offices. So the principal or the head teacher, as the case may be, is supposed to bring report to the zonal offices. We have zonal offices of the ministry, zonal offices of the schools board, both the junior secondary schools board, the UBE, as well as the senior secondary schools board. Now the board, zonal directors bring this information to the office of the commissioner, where we process this information and take necessary actions. But these people, since I came on board, it's about 13. It's about
not gotten any report.
I have not gotten any formal report from any zonal director, from any principal. This is the state of affairs of the infrastructure in my school.
Mr. Commissioner, shouldn't that force you to begin to ask questions and even heads need to roll?
You see, what I've done, like Dr. Ben talked about, to set up a committee without waiting for them to report. Let's have needs assessment. Now, we also discover that even today you just come here, you get this statistics, this is what the state of the school. The next day, things are vandalized. The way people trivialize or don't play with government facilities because it's called government property or government facilities, is what amazes me. You see, all this money government is spending, renovating, sometimes by the time government commissions and leave this place, in the watch of the community, these infrastructure have been made useless of it. Let me use the word. People vandalize, loot, and which is not good enough. So what I'm trying to say in effect that we have also set another committee to go back because we won't relent. Not like I said, I cannot sit in my office and know all that is happening. That's why I've set this committee again to go back and check out, the status or the state of these schools, because it has to be reviewed. Students
will tell you that they have to use the bushes to.
Like I said, I'm not a magician, neither am I, a witch doctor that will be able to know what, If we don't get this, we won't be able to know. But I bet that all the schools that government built have toilets in them. Most of these toilets are not being maintained by the school.
When I was supposed to be the responsibility of the school.
For goodness sake, somebody uses the toilet without flushing it. And that person comes again, and before the place is blocked. You expect the Commissioner of Education, because Commissioner of Education to come there and start cleaning the toilets? For goodness, Andrew, you attended secondary school. From my primary school, secondary school, I attended public schools. We washed the toilets. Yes. We cleaned the compound. We cut grasses. The part we made the part clean. So what is happening? So I will not say the same. Am I not a professor today? Why would a child come to school? He doesn't know how to wash it. Can't wash the toilet. Even after he uses the toilet, he allows it. Other people come, So these are things that must change. We all want to school for goodness sake. You come to school, even when we're using the pit latrines, those days in the primary school, we still made it clean. So say a government, no school was built without any toilet. Most of the challenges with maintenance from this part of the school, the students, and even the school, heads, as the case, may be. I said, if something spoils, let's say it's about to spoil, maybe the handle of the double C, whatever it be the case, it doesn't cost anything, just fix.
Do they have overhead impress or allowance for daily running and maintenance? When these little things happen, some of them will say, "Oh, we don't have the funds to be able to take care of this." School was about to resume. We went around some. Some of the schools were covered with bushes. Some of them, the desks were bad, not even clean, not arranged.
Let me tell you.
And that is one of the excuses you would get.
See, like I told you,
no impress.
Like I told you when we went to school. For goodness sake, we got the first week, those first 2-3 days.
That students who were made to do
all these things. So why would they say, somebody was drawing my attention. One school is so bushy with grasses. That's okay. Commissioner should get machete and cutlass to go and be cutting the grasses.
Mr. Commissioner, understandably, but with modern day laws and the evolution of society,
so
some of these things have been seen as hard labor. Or
there is no policy in the country which says students cannot clean. So I need to go and hire cleaner to come and clear the grasses with the parts as we used to do those days. Wash the toilets. For goodness sake. You see, we are just being spoon-feeding the children and spoiling them. Most of them because are taking to the line of the private schools who are trying to shop our children by trying to make everything so rosy and cozy, giving them an ideal in a situation which is never achievable. For goodness sake, like I said, I did all this thing today. I'm a distinguished professor. Where did this stop me from? Today now, I can cut grasses in my compound. I can wash my toilets and do a lot of things. We need to go back to these things. This issue of making people look everything is so rosy. That is why when our children come out, they don't look for a white-collar job, they don't get, they relax and begin to go into other crimes because they were given the impression that, this, a word of euphoria, where you are going into society, you are going into everything has to be provided for. You don't need to make, any effort, which is not good. That's why I'm also advocating for a change in our value, in our value systems. This doesn't have to change. For me today, I'm a proud.
And you cut bushes.
Yes, so today
I needed to add that part.
Yes, I cut bushes, and today I'm where I am. It doesn't stop me from being. It doesn't stop me from being who I am today.
All right, let's take a few messages on WhatsApp and on Facebook. I think we'll take more messages before we take a few calls. On Facebook, Ejikeme Woyi says, I concur with you that principals should report to the zonal directors, but unfortunately, most principals are not fit to head schools. The condition of government secondary school Omerelu is not conducive for learning. It can easily be passed as any abandoned site. Unfortunately, it was the pilot center for UBE in Ikore local government area. I commend you for providing stationery for schools, but try and monitor the distribution of these stationery. Most principals divert these books. Most teachers buy lesson notes and markers themselves. Henry says, community and government schools in Ogurama community, Degama, is completely dilapidated. Please, Commissioner, save my community. Thanks. A Prince from Aoda says, I think there's no free education in River State because in Aoda, I pay for terminal due, exam fee, marker, buy marchet, PTA fees in Western Aoda County High School and Government Secondary School, Aoda. And one says, Commissioner, the condition of the schools in Mmom local government area is nothing to write home about. Whenever I go around that, I weep because of the way the schools are. No chairs, no blackboards. Some class, they sit on the floor. The building... it says the building is nothing to write home about. Please send some of your people to go and check out our buildings. Thank you. God bless River State. Okay, the fees. I think I'll start with one that was highlighted. The exam fees. All these fees, are they included in the free education, or those sort of fees exist and are legal and people would have to pay them?
Listen, I will still reiterate here that education is free in River State, and no child is expected to pay any money.
No registration fee,
nothing like
no exam fee,
some say
marker
admission fee or marker fee. In fact, I had somebody said they were charging, is it a security fee, and it was just so laughable. Why did you not, report? There are no such, approvals for any child, to collect any student to pay any money, or any principal to collect, any money. But I must state here that, I know some schools where the PTA chairman and secretary have written to me, say, Commissioner, we want to compliment the efforts, of the government, knowing that the government has a lot on its plate. So look, we want to compliment the efforts of the government. We as a PTA, we have met and we have decided to support government in providing chairs in the school. So we have agreed that, look, our children will pay a token of 500 naira or 1,000 naira. Please kindly approve. This is our own contribution supporting the government of the day. I say, okay, fine. It's a resolution of the government with letters, everything signed. It's okay, fine. So if such kind of scenario, I say that
those sort of schools, can we have? Is it possible to have the names of those schools? So, if we have those reports coming from those schools, we would now be able to know.
If I have a file I created in the office where such approval I studied, I also make some investigations. So, okay, well, since any even group of individuals can support education, I have an NGO who said, look, Commissioner, we want to do vocational training free of charge for 12 schools within Port Harcourt and Obiawo. That is our own support to complement the efforts of the government. We appreciate what government is doing in the education sector. That is our own contribution, to support, the government of the day. And approval has been given. By next week, they will commence this 6 weeks training free of charge on pro bono. Nobody's paying for nothing. I have also some NGOs say, look, we want to renovate so number of schools. Even some companies have approached me. We want to add 6 classroom blocks to this community as part of our corporate social responsibility. So you see, the running education, even general in governance, it's not only the government. Who is even the government? You are part of the government, part of the government. Better what you have passion for. Because this is what we want to support. People have donated some literature to us. A group of young men donated about 500 copies of school safety for school children. books. They want to support, Will you reject it because, government has provided books? No, we take this. We appreciate that, which means that they appreciate the efforts of the government in bringing free and affordable and quality.
So, Mr. Commissioner, now at the moment we have you have reports from the various local governments, the condition of some of the schools following the needs assessment, and that they plan on now to see how to improve the conditions of those schools.
You see, let me tell you, people, when people, I don't know how people talk most time, they expect government to do everything at the same time. That is not possible. It's one step after the other. Like I told you, we have over 200, nearly 300, schools, secondary schools across River State. You can agree with me that there is no way that government can attend to these number of schools at the same time. These are done one after the other. Like I look at them. When we look at them, I say, okay, which one is more critical to attend to?
Is there no role local government council chairman play in the condition of these schools?
Yes, local government chairman or councils play supportive roles. For instance, today the Port Harcourt City local government has remodeled 3 schools, which will be handed over to River State government today by 12 noon. Community Secondary Primary School 1 and 2, Orobum, in Dela, we are nearby Oromeneke, and community, I think, a primary school at Ibadan Street, there in Port Harcourt, township.
So then, if this
and somebody, so that's why I tell you.
So this is possible. How come in many other local governments we have schools go to a state where they become completely bad?
You see, the local. I'm not defending local government, chairman also. Now, if people report, like this is my local government, I'm local government chairman, I have supervisor of education, and bring some attention, say, chairman, as part of our responsibility as a government, see this community, the school there is in River State, and River State, the state government has not given attention to it. Can we provide 300 chairs, or can we very dilapidated roof, as the case may be? For goodness sake, I'm sure if the chairman is a responsible chairman, we're able to key into that. But most times people don't know the rules. People hold positions without even knowing what
the duty
is. So that's some of the challenges we have. There is no law that prevents the local government, councils supporting the River State government or the state government in some of these things. I'm just giving an instance of Port Harcourt City, local government. Some even last, have. Let me avoid mentioning, because there are many local government areas, chairman, have called me, so commissioner, please come and commission, so and so, school, projects in my area. Come and commission so and so project we have done so and so innovation. About this and so books, we have provided school buses. If I let me mention the school buses in my local government area, the chairman invited me about 5 buses, free of charge, to commit children to school and back on a daily basis. So the point I'm making here is that these things should not be left in the hands of the River State, government. Group-splitted individuals, corporate organizations, NGOs, and you have it. Even the local government, even you here, Andrew. I'm sure you can afford to innovate even the classroom for us, and we appreciate you. If you want us to engrave your name there, So the point I'm making here is that we shouldn't leave this in the hands of the government commissioner. They say, that's a slogan, say, if you see something, say something. If you see, report to us. The ones you can do, we do. It's a collective thing. Okay. Nobody is government.
Let's take a few messages. Government. There's plenty of them, and then there's still 2 major things we'd like you to respond to. We attempt to wrap up in a matter of a moment. I know Dr. Ben will be itching to say a few things, but then it's been really time-consuming and a lot to elaborate on. I told you earlier we'll be taking more messages than calls because we're trying to manage the time. So the focus is more on the messages. So you can send in more messages using the WhatsApp number 0809 030 6416 0809 030 6416. This one says, Honorable Commissioner, you rightly said education is free in River State. I went to make inquiries at Community Secondary School, Okoloma, Ndoki, Oyigbo, and I was told that each student is expected to bring the sum of 12,000 naira with 1 hoe, broom, office file, tissue, and soap. Now I have 2 persons to be enrolled in the junior secondary, and I'm expected to bring 24,000 naira aside the other items. Is this also in line with the commission rules? Amara from Okoloma. Before you respond, this one says, please help me ask Mr. Commissioner if his child is cutting grass in the school that they attend. Lucky from Port Harcourt. We'll come to that. He would respond. Sir, please tell the commissioner that he's being defensive. I want to make the following facts about secondary schools in our East. All the secondary schools there do not have any functional laboratories, no government-employed security staff, inadequate teaching staff, no libraries in all the schools. Please, we should go beyond this approach and please take proactive actions. Tony and Joe from Oyigbo says, please, Commissioner, when are you relocating your primary school in St. Mary's Catholic Church, Agri Road? The building was for preparatory classes for our children. Good morning. If I may ask your guest in the studio, the Honorable Commissioner, please, sir, with due respect, have you visited a school called CSS Boako to tell us the current condition and situation of the school in Kana local government area in River State, Brother MDD Dumale? The messages are endless. It's the reason why we didn't talk, because open the phone lines is endless. You can't accommodate all of it, and we have very limited time. But you would see most of the people here and what they are pointing towards. Infrastructure is the key thing. The primary school in my community is worth to talk about. That is Kalaoko community in Kana. Andrew, please, I request for your number, and you asked me to go to Facebook and send a message, which I have done yet. Little is Sunday. I have not seen it, I'll check. Another person here says, good morning. I think the Ministry for Education should concentrate more on those schools in rural areas. Supervisors should visit rural schools every now and then. Good morning. Local government workers in River State have not been paid the new wage. Okay, this is not for compensation.
The detail.
Apologies for that. Okay, let's quickly wrap things up. We have less than 3 minutes, if not even less than that. The issue of cultism in schools is something that you have talked about. And even the tertiary institutions recently, we don't know where the situation is with the issue that happened at the UST campus. If you can just give us a brief background on these two situations and the approach of the ministry, especially in tackling cultism at secondary level.
Well, the issue of cultism has eaten deep into the system, which you can agree with me. Before now, we felt that it was something of the tertiary institutions, the universities, polytechnics, and colleges. But incidentally, that is not the case. Even down to the primary schools, we notice that the issue of cultism has even gone down, there, and it's very unfortunate. And that is why last week Tuesday, if you listen to the governor, he was very, blunt about it. That any teacher or principal that is, let me use the word, let me just paraphrase, is involved. Either aiding or beating, cultic activities in school, surely we face disciplinary action. So what we've done here, I set a committee. So if in your school, you have all the principals, I'm having a meeting with them in the week, and I have to reiterate what the governor, has said in that regard. So if you fish out or if you see cultists operating and you don't report, then you don't have any business, being our principal or being our head teacher, as the case may be. Because we want to see how, because if the head is being spotted, of course, there is no, how can the head, if it's a cultist, how can it now prevent, students from being, cultists equally? So we are taking a very strong, stand, on that, like the governor had already stated, and we surely implement that. A committee has been set, to monitor, that. But before I know the time is about right now.
A few seconds.
Yeah, a few seconds. I want to say here that, because of the sensitive nature of education, of course, it cuts across, almost every strata of society. I'm not surprised that so many of these comments that are coming. But I have to tell them that the government is doing its own part, and these things cannot be achieved one day. We cannot renovate 200 and something schools in a day. And people should also see themselves as people that protest.
Dr. Ben, thank you as well. We have to go for a commercial.
Ya Hajji Aisha, wannan abincin naki yana canza yanayin iskan da muke shaka tare da ingiza ni da kamshin da nake ji.